The open up conference play with that decisive of a win is something that I think we're all really proud of. We cleaned up some things from the weeks before. Obviously, I thought the resiliency of the team was really strong. To drop a couple passes early, miss a couple blocks, and just to never waver and come back. And there were some crucial moments on third down that we had to make plays, and we connected with guys that had dropped balls previously. So for them to be resilient and them just keep fighting and keep believing like they did, I just kept telling them their next move is significantly more important than their last mistake. That was when I wanted to make sure they understood as receivers that their next move is going to be significantly more important than their last mistake. And being able to move on quickly, they were able to do, which was great. I thought our offensive line played some phenomenal football today. I thought, the running backs that were available played extremely hard. A lot of yards after contact in there, which was impressive. I thought Zoe put ball in some really tight windows on crucial moments where he did just a really good job. And, he was sitting back there without much pressure, which, again, it's hats off to the running backs, the O-line, Coach Smith, Coach Kennedy, and just the protection plan we had in place. Special teams, I thought, was strong. There's things we got to continue to clean up in there. And then defense, what do you want to say about it? 192 yards to hold that team to that is pretty impressive to me. I thought we played the run extremely physical, extremely well, which then led them to be a little bit more one-dimensional, which then allowed us to be able to attack the quarterback and end up leaving there with 7 sacks on a team that had been sacked twice, on the entire year. So thought overall really good day. Impressed with our fans again, for our students to come out in this weather and brave those elements with us to support us. I was really grateful and proud to have them be part of this with us. Obviously, it started to thin out after halftime, and would have liked to just kind of open this up a little bit more. Jordan's touchdown, Zoe's touchdown, just a shame for those to come back, in the manner they did, but is what it is. But I thought overall, open up conference play. Any win in conference play is a bit important one, and to do it against that team, obviously really proud.
You mentioned the running backs. I think today was probably a perfect example for just how deep that room is. You're without Io and GP, and you almost don't miss a beat with 331 yards. Yeah. How much did you like what Wayne and Jordan were able to do throughout all 4 quarters?
Yeah, a lot. I liked it a lot. But it wasn't just that. We were running behind the tight ends again this week. We were running behind the offensive line, and there was just a lot of movement up front. We were really moving people, and especially you got to the end of the second, into the start of the third, and then through the third, the way the offensive line was moving people was very impressive to me. So I thought those guys broke some tackles and did some great things, but obviously, it starts with the offensive line and the tight ends, and they'll tell you the same. But they also, were able to bounce off a couple things, run through a bunch of tackles. There was a 2nd and 8 or something in there. We were just trying to kill the clock, and next thing you know, Jordan's going forward and carrying a pile for however many yards after that. So those are the things that stood out to me, just the physical nature at which they played it. And it was on really both sides of the ball. But yeah, that room to have you could argue your top 3 guys initially, or top 2 of your top 3 guys out at some point in time here. For them to be able to, just carry the weight like they did was impressive. And I know Jordan's not even 100%, physically. He's dealing with some flu elements here, but he just played hard, and that's just a type of kid he is when the team needs him.
And then on the flip side of that, with your defensive performance in the run game, it was about 34 yards they had given up on the run in the first half, and you guys ended it with 29. So you sent them backwards throughout the 3rd and 4th quarter. How validating is that kind of performance when they're able to just keep pushing a team backwards?
Yeah, it's a impressive. That's a very good football team we just played, and to be able to go out there and do what we just did against them, especially in the run game, where just think to last year, the amount of times that they were able to run counter and just really pop a couple big runs. That's a lesson that I think we all learned, the hard way, and I love the way our guys came back and battled and handled that, because when that happened, then it again made it one-dimensional, which put us in a position to be able to attack the quarterback a little bit more, and that's just the game that we ended up finding ourselves in. So again, it all started with, can you stop the run? Can you run the ball? Can you stop the run? Win the turnover battle. I don't think there was much in there for either team on that side, but ultimately, I thought the ability to run the ball and stop the run, on both sides, offense and defense, is really what in a game like this would win that game, and we did just that.
You said today's incredible number in rushing and then on the ground is more evident of this week's game plan, or more just the brand of football you guys want to play this season?
Yeah, it's all going to be different, right? I think that we were finding ourselves in situations where when we ran the ball, we were having a lot of success with it. It wasn't going for 1 or 2 and putting you in 2nd and 8s, and setting you back. You were we're going for 5 and 6 and sometimes 7 yards a run. That's just something you're just going to keep riding if you can. Why risk it at some point in time? Not that it's a risk, but that ultimately sets up the ability for us to take a couple shots, which we were able to do. But I thought that the way we ran the ball again efficiently on first down really is going to tell the tale of the game a lot of times. It's just, can you really move them and can you stay ahead of the chains? And I thought we did a good job of that today. So this game plan in this weather, right? I think everything led to that being what we needed to do.
On the other side of the ball, Trent's kind of flying under the radar in the past couple of years just because he's so consistent.
Yes.
Maybe you don't appreciate him enough.
Yeah, good.
Your day today. How valuable is it to have a linebacker that can get after the quarterback, that can stop run fits and drop back in coverage?
And lead this team the way he does as well, and communicate. He's the guy with the green dot, on his helmet throughout the game, so he's the one that has to get all the messages cleared through everybody, the play call, everything that comes with it, and he does an excellent job of that. But yeah, he was a little bit revealed today, right, in a really positive way, and it was awesome for him to be able to show that. Of all the plays, the sacks and everything else he did, that's all good. The one that I was most impressed with was the 4th and 1 down here, where the snap goes over our head, that whole entire series of disaster that occurred, and on 4th and 1, that kid hadn't been stopped yet the entire year. And it started with Andrew Taddeo first, taking on 3 different blockers, but then Trent to get through, as he's being blocked, grab onto a leg and hold that kid up. That was a big deal, because if not, they're putting 7 on the board right there if they get that first down. So that was as big a stop as any in this whole game, and a lot of it had to do with number 5.
I know you guys have put a lot of emphasis in your offense this season on the ground, but still with 3 names out this game, was there ever a point during the week where you thought you'd have to lean a little more in the pass game?
Oh, yeah, for sure, 100%. And I thought we were really prepared with it. I liked the way that we diversified the pass game. There was, I don't know how much you could see out there and recognize, but there's a bunch of screens that happened in there. There's more tight ends that got involved a little bit more. There was 2 or 3 shots that we just missed on, but we were moving the pocket a little bit, and there was moments where the running backs caught the ball in the backfield as well. So, that is definitely something that we thought was going to happen. We just did not want to sit back and drop back the whole game because of ultimately how much pressure they brought a year ago. Now, when they brought pressure today, it wasn't an issue. We were pretty much buttoned up on it, and I thought our guys did a great job. So, could have thrown a little more, but in these elements in that moment, the one to Nicky D over top of the kid, 31, who's looks like he's about to pick it off, made you a little nervous, I think. And at that point, we, sort of battened down the hatches a little bit and just pushed.
And to go back to those elements, I know you've talked about kind of in practice, like the approach to preparing for hostile environments and going on the road. Is there anything different you do in practice when you look at the radar and you see game day is going to be this kind of weather?
Yeah, so, well, throughout the week, it said it was going to pour every single day of the week, and it didn't pour one single time when we were at practice. There was no rain the entire week. So I was, more thinking we were going to get that work in. We didn't. So should we have Friday dunked a bunch of balls in water? We probably could have, should have, maybe we will next time. Because that really is the question, is am I wearing gloves or not, right? That's what it comes down to for these receivers, right? Are the gloves holding up? Are they sticky enough? Or now that they become slippery? They got to figure that out a little bit, on their own. But ultimately, each person has their own sort of way that they like to play the game in that weather. But to drop the first 2 or 3 was a little bit disappointing. And then to have another 2 or 3 drops later was disappointing. But yeah, we probably could and should. I thought we'd have it all week long, and we didn't have a single drop of rain until today, right? So just a little more. We did it during camp with the punt returners and everybody else. We just hadn't done that for a minute. So good idea. We'll get back to it.
You mentioned on special teams one of the bad plays, but you guys also had a really good one with a kid that you recruited out of high
how
school.
cool for him, right?
How special was it to see Curtis and really his first
New Hampshire
big
Gatorade Player of the Year, just not forget, all right, with Curtis Harris Lopez from the state of New Hampshire. But phenomenal. Like how awesome. Like they kicked it and hung it up a little bit, put it over to the side, and it wasn't even about the return. It was about the cutback to me. That was the most impressive thing, that he felt that, saw it, felt all the black jerseys coming from the side and took it back across. That was a really impressive run by him, and the ball security was elite. And he had one last year at Holy Cross, and you were hoping that he would have one this year. But with GP out, with IO out, like he's the next guy up, and what a great job by him.
We talk about with the run game, knowing with the weather that it's going to be run heavy, both defenses, knowing that for your offensive line to be able to still create those gaps and separation, how big is that for you moving forward?
Phenomenal. I think that the physical nature at which they're playing with and the combinations and their communication is what stands out to me. We were really close on Zoe's touchdown down there, calling a timeout. I walked all the way down because they were in a different front, and then they got into gaps and changed a look at the last second right before we called timeout. But the O-line knew exactly what they were doing. They were poised for it and would have handled it if we ran the play to the one look that we didn't want to run it to. But they still were prepared to handle that, and I'm sure it would have just been as successful. So their combinations, their communication, all the things they're doing is really good. They just got to keep it going.
And I know one of the talking points this year, especially with conference play, is being able to be consistent from start to finish with whatever the lead would be. How big is it to open up conference play in the fashion you guys are able to?
Yeah, it's huge. It's as big as it gets, against that team too, right? I think a lot of people had this game circled on the calendar of, the first moment where you play your conference game and two really good teams going against each other. And I think a lot of people, felt like they could gain a lot of information from what this game might be. For us, it's the game we had to play this week, and we're excited to be able to do that. We'll be right back again next week, and the leading cause of failure is mismanaged success, right? We all understand that. And you could look back at this game and say the leading cause of success is well-managed failure for maybe a year ago. So we got to keep that in mind as we navigate this tomorrow into the rest of the week. But we're in conference play now, so it's going to heat up, and it's going to continue to be what you would expect it to be in one of the premier conferences, in the group of five.
I know Iowa was a late add to the availability report. Do you have an update on that, or is that something?
Yeah, he'll be perfectly fine. I'm not a doctor, but at the same point in time, he was really close to being able to go today, and we were like, let's just see how this plays out, because you going and pulling it a little more is probably not ideal. Let's just rest this one for a minute. If we really need you, if something happens to somebody else in here, then we would have, tried to figure it out. But once when he's ruled out, he's got to stay out for the game. I don't know, honestly, how that works. But the idea was to try to see if we could play him, throughout the course of the game later if we really needed him, but not risk it.